We're here for a work session with the Board of Commissioners and the Ethics Commission in a joint work session. I'm going to take this minute and open the floor up for citizen comments. If there are any citizens in the audience that would like to make a comment, this is your opportunity to make a comment here for the Board of Commissioners in the work session. Seeing no citizens for citizen comments, we'll close citizen comments and move ahead with the work session. And we do, this is called to order. I believe what this sheet here is, it is not. We got on our agenda here, we got the approval of the minutes. So we got a set of minutes from 2/28/24. Is that the last time we met to approve? A motion? Second, any questions, comments, changes, alterations, improvements to the minutes? All right. If there's no objection, we'll adopt the minutes as published. Hearing no objections, we will adopt the minutes, move forward. And we have a proposed agenda. I would suggest that we start with Ms. Hughes's. I think based on some feedback that I've gotten, maybe I'm wrong, but there seems to be a forming consensus on that. Would you like to take just a minute to walk us through that? Let me get your turn.
I thought you would just read it and I wouldn't have to do anything.
Oh my, you don't want me reading.
You've been rewarded for your excellent work.
Well, I mean, I basically took already the what we had and then the stuff from Franklin, not only their bylaws, but also their actual ordinance that has the Ethics Commission laid out, and basically pulled stuff from there and a few other cities that I felt would be important. As sitting on the Ethics Commission, I felt it would be helpful as being a member of the Ethics Commission. So I guess I started off with adding a definition for firsthand knowledge. I don't know if you want me to have to read that, but that's pretty self-explanatory. I added some stuff about the ethics complaints. I think we need to have a form, and I took one, I think it's the one, and I just proposed it, made one that I felt would be helpful. Let's see what else I added. I think pretty much everything that I added in here was from the Franklin.
Is that the red?
Yeah, I added red.
That's what you, okay.
Yeah.
So the other is Franklin, you're the red.
The black is what is in the Mountain Juliet code now.
Oh, I got you.
And the red is the proposed change that I've
Gotcha.
suggested. So. I added some hearing procedures, which basically came from that Franklin. And then the forms on the public comments and stuff, those were some things I saw in some other cities I thought would be helpful. I know, I don't know, we don't have a way for people to sign up for comments now, but I know that there's the issue of always having to have both sides of the comment. So I thought with the form, this form came from one of the other cities, I think Murfreesboro, and they have where you can put on there what side you're on so that you can make sure that you get somebody from both sides of the public comments. But, I don't know that that's a big deal having a form or not, but I personally thought it was a good idea. But as far as being on the Ethics Commission, I don't think that affects my job in any way.
Davidson too.
Davidson has that too.
But it has it where you have so many for and so many against. So
Yeah.
Like Team Edward, Team Jacob.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with opening the floor up, but if there's a lot, I would think we could have a sign up initially. And then if, we say there's 15 minutes for public comments, and if there's that many people that signed up, we can limit it. But then if we finished with the people that signed up, we still have some time, I don't think there'd be anything wrong with opening it up to other people, but I feel like it would be nice to know ahead of time so that, you know,
It may also be wise, and I'll have to refer to Gino on this one, to have that piece defined based on the state law for citizens that are now impact citizen comments. You can do some limitations on that, but I think you need to have a policy in place to do it.
yeah.
And, you know, we have something in code for our regular meetings, and it's regular meetings and what am I trying to say? Public hearings. We have that in code, which limits it to 3 minutes, and I think that would probably default under that. But if we wanted to do something like having people register in advance, and the good thing about registering in advance, it makes the city recorder's job a lot easier than trying to write it down as well. And they could say which side they want to speak on, or neutral, or whatever.
Right, exactly. That's what I was
Just
thinking.
keep them germane to the topic too. It's not the time to advocate for bike lanes or anything.
Do you have a limit with the city as far as how long they speak? I'm sure that
Yes, 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
That's been in our code for a number of years. And it happens to match the MTAS recommendation. I don't know if that's coincidental or they were just all on the same page.
Where's that, Georgie? How long did you say?
Oh, I didn't propose the time. I
You
just know
just said that
that, you know, at the beginning of the meetings, we usually say we're gonna allow 15 minutes for public comments, and then however long each person has is whatever the code says or whatever y'all decide. But whatever that time is, I thought if they signed up in advance, you would know who's for and who's against, so that you make sure you get equal sides to speak. And then if you opened it up to 15 minutes and only 2 people signed up, but other people are here, then at that point, I think you could allow additional comments if the, you know.
I think you just want to be consistent with what the
Yeah.
city's doing. So,
Well, and I
that
mean,
sounds fine.
if I had
Seems
that
like a good
proposal,
plan.
I would think that if we had a sign up, I think they would have to do it for all public comments, not just the ethics.
You could just add a line in there to comply with that
Right.
section of our existing code.
Yeah.
Then one change to code will fix them all, I guess, or make them worse, depending on your outlook.
So Mayor, I actually got a question. I don't know if this goes back to Gino or how this works, but I know there was some discussion about fees and all that. I mean, obviously, this past fee was there, but is this in the budget for line items to have support when it comes to the ethics board, or how does that, align? Because after last night's vote, obviously we voted for, the approval of the fees, but does the city have a line item for this?
It does.
Pull the mic around, sir.
Sorry. There it is.
It does. The way we've got it set up now, or at least the way the ordinance is set up, or the process is, if it arises, first time we've had this happen, of course, there's no historical knowledge, but basically we have contractual services and we usually have a certain amount of money set up in that. If it exceeds the 10,000, we have to come back to the commission for a budget amendment for anything beyond that. The only downside of that is, of course, so it may not be a bad idea to have a line item and it just rolls over every year. And if it doesn't get used, because the fear is if you use your contractual services money on something else and then this happened, you wouldn't have budget. Either way, you'd still have to come back to the commission. So might not hurt in the future to have a line item just for up to that amount, since that matches what the policy, I guess you'd say, or the ordinance states.
And do we go back to the, is there a price? I mean, obviously, please don't take this wrong for the 2 attorneys in the room, but, again, is there a cost that is for that? So that way, let's say that, the city comes back, 10 years from now, we have a different attorney sitting here, and let's say that, that amount could change. So is there an hourly rate that the city is required or not exceeding? Or is there just a, We just find the best attorney for the best application.
It is, and a lot of that decision would be up to the city attorney if they recused themselves, of course.
Sure.
You know, they may be working directly with the ethics committee and not have an issue and not have to even utilize that. But if something similar, what happened recently was to happen again and city attorney recused themselves, then you'd have that and just have that set amount in there would probably be the thing, because most attorneys are similar in charge, but we probably wouldn't get down to that detail of what they charge per hour, just say this amount.
I understand.
I will say this, that original was written in what, 2008?
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
$10,000.
And I will say this, 2008 compared to now, I mean, attorney's fees have probably doubled.
Well, with AI, you guys should be able to cut that in half, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I had scribbled on here. I would suggest that automatic line item be $20,000. That doesn't mean you have to spend $20,000,
Sure.
but it avoids
And
all
that's
that
probably right, because I
mismatch.
think it's from 2008, it's probably doubled. I'd say that's probably a fair thing.
Okay, I'm just asking, trying to figure out that, just because again, it's just, it's kind of, it's kind of like going to a car dealership and saying, hey, give me a $20,000 car. You get what you pay for, right?
Yeah,
So
you wouldn't do too hot.
Yeah.
You know what that was.
you're going to get 4 wheels and
They sent you
windshield.
to the used lot, and you probably couldn't get much on the used lot.
I
To be
agree, I
clear,
agree.
the Ethics Commission is who hires the attorney, so it won't be the
Okay.
BLC hiring the attorney, particularly if all the BLC are involved with complaints against each other, so.
I'd say
So
by
we'll
raising
never have
it, it
this
would probably cut down on, because now if it goes over, it doesn't mean you're not going to pay it. It just, you got to go through all these other steps, where if you just had it in it, it would be a little easier. maybe. So,
So I do have a question, and this goes back to the attorneys again. So with today's technology, obviously things are written a little bit different from where we were back in 2008. And then again, we also do expect, these, this committee to be able to be here. And unfortunately, to try and capture everyone's schedule all at one time is, again, like herding cattle, right? So is there an option that we could be able to implement where these folks can, remote in if it's by a VPN or whatever? I mean, again, that would be able to help streamline some of these
That's
processes.
state law.
State law does not allow it, and that's what I'm asking for.
Correct. It did during COVID, but
Yeah.
now you got to physically be
emergency order.
Okay. Again, just thought I'd ask.
here. No, good
We
question.
were just discussing that. We had a new judge that was in Davidson County called me yesterday, and her first suggestion is, what can we do better? As a judge. And the first thing I said was more Zoom, because as much as I like, I like being able to stay in Mount Juliet and practice law in Nashville without having to drive down there and find a parking place and waste a half a day. So
Yeah, sit for 3.5 hours for your 10-minute.
for my
hearing.
10-minute hearing, and that happens.
Park me in the room, Joe.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I can be on Zoom, do my 10 minutes, and I'm right back to doing something else.
I understand.
I have a question.
Sure.
Page 24 of yours, under K. Already in the code where it says a member of the Ethics Commission shall not take an active part in a political campaign, and you have removed the line, display of a campaign sign shall not be considered as taking an active part. So you've removed that part. So,
I put it back in, it's number 10, I just didn't complete it all. I just removed it
Oh, I
from up
see.
there.
okay.
Under permissible activities.
Correct, right. This was in the Franklin one, I think.
Yeah.
I think they defined activities, I just,
Mm-hmm.
So when I was reading through this, again, just to be able to make sure that we rehash, because I know, I could have missed something because again, we read through multiple different pages here. So for example, and I'm not centering anybody out, but honestly, like I'm going to rehash where we left off at. So if we do have a commissioner that is representing, let's just say, for real estate, okay, So is there going to be, so is there anything in here that, you know, because again, I think that was a discussion where just because we did something in the past doesn't mean that it doesn't meet, the state statute. Because I mean, obviously that was a discussion that you brought back up from your team, that there was a question in there about, I guess one of your attorneys went to another state event or something, and they found out that there was a code in there in the state that stated that, that you cannot sell a property and all that. So does that cover this in here, and does it clarify all that detail?
That'd be a conflict of interest, and that's separate from the ethics issue. Now, if somebody does not disclose the conflicts of interest, then that would be an ethics violation or possible ethics violation.
Possible, after it's being investigated based off of line E.
Right.
Okay. And this third party to investigate, it doesn't show, I mean, again, third party, to investigate. So who's the third party?
Well, and that's something, I guess, for the city to decide on that. I don't know. I mean, if that could be an independent attorney or an investigator. There's firms that do these type of investigations as well. But I think that would be up to the city manager to hire who that would be.
I would prefer it not be an attorney.
Yeah,
Where-
I mean,
where-
it's whoever.
Where is that? I'm
That's,
sorry.
I think that was already.
Column E, exceptions otherwise provided for.
What page?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 14 on my attachment that Sheila sent out, so it could be different. But if we look at the section, just so you guys see, section 2354, so 2-354 ethics complaint.
Okay, got it.
I guess it'd be page 5 if you look at, if it's just the actual PDF file that you're
And
looking at.
that is page 14 is the proposal presented by Commissioner Justice.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
will find it on Georgina's because she just,
But it's still the same. I think.
yeah.
It's the
Okay.
same section. And I think what I was trying to say too is like right now it says the city attorney shall investigate, but if there were a conflict, I would think that we would want a third party to investigate it. And I don't know who that would be because,
So
that
that's F.
it's E, I think. Under the code, I think.
Yeah, but
Oh, I might have redone it
I
on
think
mine, yeah.
yours is F. I think.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Where is that?
It's on page 2 of 7, page 21,
Page 21.
and it would be under F.
Yeah, sorry for the mix-up, folks. There's two red line items, and I mixed them up.
Okay, yeah.
It's easy to do.
The word investigation or investigate, which Yancey had brought up several times before, and I agree. When I think of an investigator, I think of like a private investigator. So I think that still kind of leaves it up in the air to ask the question, well, what does it mean to investigate? Call up and ask some questions or go beyond that and, take it upon themselves to, I don't know, look at news articles or just dig deeper.
Well, and I think that's subjective. I mean, because to me, investigate would be to contact the people that's mentioned in the complaint that have this information. And
But who's contacting them?
well, again, that's something.
You really
Yeah,
can't
right now
do
it's
an
the city
investigation
attorney.
until you know what the charges are. So, I mean, because each investigation is going to be dependent on what the charges are and how you have to approach it. So, I mean, is it going to be a criminal investigation? Is it civil litigation? I mean, what is it?
If
No, I
it's
understand.
criminal, they're not going to investigate it. It's just going to go to the DA.
That is the
part one.
criminal investigator.
Yeah.
And
Period.
then part 2, the investigator is under this, the city attorney, unless there's a problem such as,
Yeah.
investigating a commissioner against a commissioner, they immediately have a conflict. So that's why, but if it was Joe Jones filing a suit against you or a complaint against you, then the city attorney could investigate and figure out what it is and understand, number one, was it filed within the proper time? And you call them up and say, when did this occur? And they say, oh, 2 Christmases ago. Well, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. You had 30 days to the date, or 6 months if it was hidden.
Yeah.
Which leads me to another question, but go ahead.
Can I add something, Mayor? Something what we could do, and I like all the input. I think it's great. If for some reason we had a unique situation where the city attorney couldn't investigate it, a lot of times we'll do what's called an internal affairs, or if it's something depending on the ethics complaint. We had something similar recently where a former employee had complained on an existing employee, and it was an employee matter. So we took that ethics complaint, I guess you'd say, to Gino. He was able to sit down with the current employee and realize there was nothing to that matter, and that ended it there. If it's something internal affairs couldn't do, then we could always contact the DA's office. They have an internal investigator there, which would probably be perfect because they're non-biased, not directly connected to the city. And we've had that actually happen here before, to where the DA's office.
Even when it's non-criminal,
Well, if it's alleged that it's criminal in
it's a
nature,
no-brainer. Goes
Yeah,
to the DA.
yeah,
The
exactly.
question is, what if it's non-criminal?
we could hire a disinterested third-party investigator.
But who would that be? I think
I think
the
you're
only
getting outside
people
the
I know
bounds.
that do that is attorneys. I don't know. Gino, is there?
I don't know why Commissioner Mullally doesn't want attorneys investigating matters.
Probably the same reason I don't trust you, Tony.
Well, that would be.
Because your rates doubled.
Yeah.
I would withdraw.
Yeah.
What's good about the
But
internal?
I got 2 private investigators today on cases to follow somebody and investigate injuries, et cetera, and so forth. So, I mean, the attorneys can hire somebody, the city attorney, if it's me or somebody else, that really doesn't make a difference, can hire somebody else to.
Can we put it in the clause though, that it's outside of Wilson County? Can we put it in the clause that it's outside of Wilson County? Or would that be too granular for this?
I think it's too granular.
Okay.
You know, I was thinking about this. Wasn't there an issue a few years ago where it was a legislator, and I can't remember the whole story, but there was a legislator who was accused of living outside the district.
No, that was not a legislator. It was someone who wanted to be a legislator.
Okay, whoever it was,
Yeah.
but there was one that was a legislator too. I can't remember, but either way, when that happens, what is that process there? Because it's not criminal.
Well, no, what they
But what
do
do
is
they
the
do?
complaint's made to,
Who
to the-
investigated?
well, the TBI did. The complaint is made to the Attorney General's office, District Attorney General's office. They forward that complaint to TBI, and then TBI follows up with the investigation, reports back to the DA's office, what their findings
I
are.
thought it was the election commission they filed the complaint with.
I'm sorry.
I thought it was the election commission they filed the complaint
I
with.
think it
because
was-
it's
Well,
not a criminal
there was some other stuff that was involved in it that the DA wound up having to get
matter.
involved.
Oh, okay, but I think that complaint was filed with the election commission, say, hey, this person's not qualified
Yeah,
to serve, and then
Okay.
they
Yeah.
uncovered other
it
stuff.
turns
I'm just
out
trying to think, when does the TBI
TBI is going to be
jump
called
in
in
and when do
from,
they not jump in? I don't
they're going to
think
be called in from the DA's office, and they will only jump in after the DA requests it. So.
And I would think the DA would have a conflict probably too.
Well, the DA doesn't have a conflict because he will not investigate anything in Wilson County because he's don't want to scare off votes. you know.
Sure, sure.
So they're just going to pretty much avoid anything like that.
So another line item here. So if we go back down, that goes back down through page 1 through 7, which I guess would be page 1, which will be down. Complaint must be filed within, written
What
on the
letter?
sworn ethics complaint form.
What letter are you?
Oh, it's just A. I
Oh,
was just
that-
using that
okay,
one as
got
an
it, got it,
example. So, but as we go down, and I'm just using these first 3 line items right here, A, B, C. So, but I go back to, this is, if we look at it, it's a complaint. Okay. That's the first line there. So this is what we go back to the first initial conversation where some of us, and I'm thinking for myself and any new commissioner that comes on the board. So if we see something, the first thing that we're sworn to do, which is say something, right? If you see something that you're not for sure about, you say something, right? That pretty much says, hey, we're looking at trying to get some information. This is not an allegation. This is not, this is just a review. And that's why we need an ethics commission to review this.
An inquiry.
Yeah. Another form of inquiry. Yes. So this is where I think it's a very gray area that I would like to clear up while we're sitting here, which is how do we work in a situation where the next commission, whoever that is, they understand that if this is being brought up, there is no, let's just say it's a clear line. We're coming to another group of boards that says, hey, there's something here that doesn't smell right, doesn't look right, doesn't taste right. We need a group to evaluate this. And this is really what, this is what this is purpose here for. So I guess I'm going back to the same thing, which again, the complaint whatever the complaint is, it's just an evaluation to get basically you folks or whoever this board is in the next 5-10 years, whatever it is, to evaluate that complaint. It's not making an allegation that, that Bob Jones over here that's guilty or not guilty. It's saying, hey, you guys are the SMEs, evaluate what the law says and then go from there, right? Isn't this what this purpose is here? Or
Well,
did I
feel like
misread
the
all
way
of this?
it's written, it seems like the complaints are already alleging allegations. So I think in answer to what you're talking about, in my opinion, there needs to be a way that you can do an informal inquiry that doesn't rise to the level of a complaint. And then if you do that inquiry and determine that, then file the complaint.
So we
It's
need to
not
add
in
those
there.
steps in here then.
Well,
Thank
that's actually what I had asked Mr. Marquetti to do, exactly what you're talking about. When we had talked, and he pointed out that there was something in the existing ethics code.
Yeah, there is.
Gino, you want to point that
But it
out? And
disappeared.
that's something we can add to.
Yes. No, there's a place in our current code, maybe it's one I wrote out, where you can ask for an advisory opinion of the city attorney
Right.
or the ethics commission on, like you said, here's what I heard. I'm not filing a complaint, and I wrote it
Yeah.
down somewhere. It says it's in writing,
Well,
et cetera.
I think that is in there as far as asking for an advisory opinion.
Yeah,
But none of that matters.
that's what I think he's,
And I think that's
inquiry,
the key word,
advisory opinion.
advisory.
Why doesn't it matter?
None of that matters, and that's because of a part F says complaints must be filed within 30 days of the alleged allegation. So if you find out about it 2 weeks after allegation, you got to get all that, your advisory stuff done within 2 weeks, or it's any complaint that doesn't comply with the time constraint in this paragraph. shall
What
be
you would do
dismissed.
is you would add, that if you went to, say, for instance, Mr. Marquetti said, I'd like an advisory opinion, then that would actually be the trigger that started. So that 2 weeks would be included in that. You wouldn't,
Or just say
take it
have
out.
30
all you have to do
days.
is,
30 days from the date the opinion's issued.
or 6 months if, in case of,
Yeah, the 6 months for.
I mean, there needs to be
cover-up.
some
Yeah.
type of statute limitations, but it
Correct.
can be, that's part of what we can,
It
we
could
can make our
toll it,
own
so
statute.
it could toll-
And it can
toll.
toll. So as long as you've asked for a 30 days or an advisory opinion within X amount of period, 30 days, 60 days, then it could toll the other parts of it. So.
Yeah, because if the, because if
'cause
the advisory committee
quick.
does an investigation and then that could take some time.
Right.
So at what
Until
point in time do we say the clock starts and stops?
the minute
The
that the
advisory
advisory was
opinion's issued.
requested.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
That starts the clock.
Yeah,
You
but
file for an advisory
But I went back-
opinion within 30 days
Yeah.
of the happening or 6 months when you found out about it because nobody told you about it.
Sure.
And then it takes 60 days for them to look at it, investigate it, and come back and say, yeah, we think this is basis for a complaint. Then you figure out whether or not you can file a complaint.
And I would, as far as that goes, Mayor, I wouldn't have a problem at all saying 6 months initial. And then in case of what you call it, cover up or attempt to hide it, a year.
yeah, and I mean, the 30 days is something I've been trying to get changed. I brought that back in 2019, so it's totally separate from anything going on here. So
You
It's
also
just-
need to kind of, is it 30 days from when you discover it? Or is
Yeah,
it 30
well-
days from when it occurred? So I think you'd have.
what's
to probably
what wasn't clear last
It
time.
wasn't very clear.
Well,
And,
yeah,
and
I
I
think
think
it
that
needs
needs
to
to be
be-
clear.
Mhm.
Clear.
Well, I mean, however it should be, I agree it should be clear, but what I would suggest would be that it would be, again, I have no problem changing that to 6 months initial. Okay, I found this out 6 months from the date it occurred, or in case of a cover up or, somebody trying to hide
Concealment
it,
or non-disclosure.
concealment or non-disclosure, make that a year.
So column H needs to be changed from within 30 days to
Within 6 months.
6 months
180 days, I think. Yeah.
or 180 days. Yeah. Complaint within 180 days.
That is also in the bylaws and procedures. Is that what you're,
Uh,
page 3 of 7, page 33 in the ones that went out?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in
Page
page
3
3,
of 7,
yeah, 3 of 7.
12% of
Yes,
all.
sir. Yes, sir. In column H. And then any other location. So Sheila, are we taking notes on this or somebody taking notes on these things or no?
I'm writing it down.
Okay.
I
yeah.
wrote down.
I'm
what
just
you
glad
said,
somebody's
but-
taking
but
some
I-
type of recording here. If not, we're all got to go back and watch the video again and that's going to be
It'll
painful.
be
But
recorded.
We're saying 180 days or 360 45 days in the case of concealment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds.
And then again, so this firsthand, just while I'm on that same, paragraph. Okay, firsthand knowledge. Okay, that's the other question part, right?
Yes.
So how do we clarify that? It's
Clarify
firsthand
what?
knowledge. Okay, so if I'm talking to Gino Marchetti, him's talking about something, and then all of a sudden, firsthand knowledge is him and I spoke. But if it's about Bob Smith and all three of us were together. Me, Bob Smith, and Gino Marchetti were all talking. Me and Gino find out that there's a problem about Bob Smith, and all of a sudden, that's firsthand knowledge right here.
No.
Why not?
If you have
If all three of us
firsthand
were in the same
knowledge
room
of
together,
what took place. For example, the complaints against Commissioner Hefner, he's not here. Those were based on what Commissioner Mullally or Mr. Manis heard from other people that Scott Hefner said. It wasn't from Scott Hefner.
The only person that had firsthand knowledge was not the.
I mean,
people who came and testified.
It's the ultimate get off the hook thing, because no one's rarely ever going to have firsthand knowledge in a situation like that
Well-
unless you were a party involved.
I was a
If you
party
subpoena
involved.
the people to hear it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sometimes I had a case on Monday, which was very interesting. And the
You don't get
point-
that opportunity.
Well, the
though.
whole point of the case on Monday was the dead man statute. And it was dealing with issues about someone who's deceased. And we kept objecting, saying, well, this can't come in because it was a statement by the person who's deceased, which you can't bring them back to life and do that. But if somebody is here, you ought to have the right. Now, they could come in and say, hey, I take the Fifth Amendment, or I take whatever, and they have ways to get around that. But, in this case, you have to get it from the horse's mouth. I mean, and you have to, in order to get around hearsay, you got to go there. But we, hearsay, it's like, I thought Bill Farmer did a great job in that one hearing explaining how important really not taking hearsay. I mean, hearsay is important. You can't use it from you can't do it for the truth of the matter of something else. So you really have to get it from the horse's mouth, and that is important.
Great example. Thank you for
Yeah.
clearing that up. Okay, now we go back to the investigator.
Mhm.
Now it's hearsay for the investigator, right? The investigator goes and finds something.
Well, and maybe not. I mean,
That's-
if
I mean,
the
that's-
investigator says,
that's not
this is what
firsthand
I've
then, right?
discovered,
He went to the developer and said, developer, did this guy come and tell you this? Yeah, he did. And he said, either you approve this or I'll never approve anything else for you. Then that's firsthand information from
From the
the
investigator.
horse's mouth.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
From the developer.
From the
And that's
developer.
not,
Told
that's
me.
not hearsay. The developer saying, here's what XYZ
So-
told me,
yeah.
because it's one of those exceptions to hearsay. It's an admission against interest, why somebody,
So what's
That's
the difference in him telling an attorney that versus telling, say, someone on the board? What's the difference?
I'm sorry.
You said that's not hearsay if a developer tells an investigator?
The developer can tell the investigator what that commissioner told him.
And that wouldn't be hearsay?
No, it's part of the investigation, and the person who is doing the questioning will be getting it directly from the developer.
So what's the difference
So then-
between?
Yeah, what's the difference
It's part of the
in a
investigation.
developer
So there's a second part to her
telling
question.
one of us?
But keep in mind also, it's got to go to court, and if it's not going to pass the rules of the court, then it doesn't make any difference what the investigator does or anybody else does. If it-
Well, I guess I'm just not understanding if a developer tells a person that, one person, it wouldn't be hearsay, but another person it would. I guess I'm just having trouble connecting what the difference is.
investigator is non-biased. So that would make it, to me,
I still think it's
part of the
hearsay.
investigation.
I still think, the
That's what I'm saying.
I'm actually sitting here thinking about this and what you're saying. I think it is also.
It's all here.
You know,
Well-
Kenny's
It's all
way
hearsay.
smarter than me. He's been
No,
practicing
no, no,
twice
no,
as
no,
long
no,
as
no.
I have. And
No.
I'll say this, but I still think it's hearsay. I don't think it gets in just because you tell an investigator. I don't think it gets
So
in.
what's
I
the
think- and
purpose
So
so-
the investigator's not going to testify.
Correct.
No, somebody's got to
The
kick the
developer's
ball
going to
across
come
the
in
end
and
zone.
say, here's what was told to me. That's
Exactly.
firsthand information knowledge from the developer.
Correct.
But ultimately, at a hearing, you got to produce that person, or I mean, you got to have it. You got to produce
The
that
affected person has to be the
That's
witness.
correct. You got to have testimony from the person that had firsthand knowledge.
So during these hearings, whether if they are behind, well, they're all going to be open to the public now. They're all sworn in. They all have to take an oath, correct?
Yes.
Because I was told one meeting they didn't have to take an oath.
Well, I don't know. I'm proposing that they do.
Well, it was unclear in the last one. So
we got that clear now in this one?
That was as plain as day in there in the code.
Well, we had the debate on the last time, and I'm not saying what we had the debate. Do we have subpoena powers? And I can't remember.
The answer is no.
No.
I don't think we have subpoena. So that's one
Until the
thing.
ordinance is adopted.
That's one
Right.
struggle that we had last time. And here's really my biggest thing, the way this whole thing does, is that, when you have a criminal system, you have a prosecutor. And then by constitutional law, you have the defendant has the right to have an attorney, and it works that way. So, you have, it's a balance there. But what's hard here is who is the guy who is going to be prosecuting, or who's the person that's going to be making the argument for or against.
Well, and that's what I put in the hearing procedures. I put all parties and witnesses shall be sworn in before giving testimony at the hearing. That was in my proposal. And then I've got at the hearing, only the members of the commission may question or cross-examine the parties and the witnesses.
But who makes the case for?
The person filing the complaint.
Well, it's just tough. I mean, to me, that's tough, because let me tell you why. They're in a courts, in a
I mean, I guess
pseudo
you could
court,
say they
quasi
can hire an
court.
attorney, like the person being accused can hire an attorney.
Well, and I think it probably goes a little smooth. I even thought about this. And thankfully, I haven't been in city court for any traffic problems. But do we still have a prosecutor?
Yes, we do.
Maybe the default there is we use that prosecutor. I mean, they're an attorney,
I mean,
and
There is a prosecutor.
We did, well, it used to be Poindexter, I'm not sure who it is
Yeah,
now,
I'm not
but,
sure who it is. I can't remember his name.
but we did discuss that. At
And
least
that
the
would be,
staff
I mean,
this time.
I don't know the new one, but Alan Poindexter, my gosh, is a phenomenal attorney. And hopefully whoever our prosecutor is now is at least he's passed the bar and he understands what a quasi court could do. So the point is, you might default to that, is use that person as the person, because I think it would have helped, would help several of the BOC members if they would have had an attorney that would have said, okay, this is what we've got to do to either prove that action or not prove that action. And I think it might have gone a little smoother that way, instead of us up here saying, well, yeah, but you can't do this and you can't do that. And I'm not sure it worked that well that way. It'd be better to have at least an attorney to try to make that argument yay or nay.
Yeah, but on one hand, we're told this is not court, and on the other hand, you're held to court standards
It's
almost.
quasi-court. If you're saying being held to court standards, it's kind of a court.
well, and I think it's because that's the appeal process. Anything that happens that's voted on in the Ethics Commission can be appealed to a court. And if it's taken to court, it'll get thrown out
If it's not.
if it's, yeah.
It's similar to what state and county agencies do. I mean, whether it be a planning commission or whatever, there's got to be some reasonable basis or substantial evidence for them to uphold or not uphold what took place. But let me go back to the first meeting. What's the purpose of an ethics code, ethics commission?
That's what I was trying to clear up earlier, which is following a procedure that, again, it's just an evaluation of a,
The purpose is to prevent unethical behavior.
I thought it was to review a possible
What's the
ethics.
purpose of an ethics code?
Oh, the
Not
code. I'm
procedure,
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
ethics
sorry. Yes,
code.
yes,
The
yes.
reason for any ethics code.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Whether it be attorneys, and we've got an ethics code
We have a
as well.
Big book of-
I think the easier it is to file a complaint within reason, the better. And that's why I'd like to examine this firsthand knowledge issue. If Commissioner Mullally hears from a constituent, I heard Gino Arquetti was taking bribes, so-and-so, so forth. She's supposed to be quiet. Well, that's hearsay. I can't do anything. or a developer comes and says, boy, I'm really getting some heat from so-and-so, so forth in your codes department down here. That's, do you want her to say, and she files it, and our city attorney looks at it and says, well, she really didn't have firsthand information, so I'm going to dismiss it, as opposed to going to the person who told her that and asking Jim, you told Commissioner Mullally this, where'd that come from? Well, Joe and Bill were sitting at the bar, and Bill is the commissioner, and he did thus and so. Oh, okay, well, looks like we may have enough to go on. So I'm just throwing that out.
But who do you propose does that investigation? Because in your case, it would fall to you. But the problem is, you're saying, at least in certain cases, hey, I can't do this. I'm out.
Yeah, but I would think it'd be rare that the city attorney would. We had 5 commissioners who I quote represent, all suing each other. So it wasn't you filing a complaint against Commissioner Mullally. I've got no conflict of interest. Yes, I represent her on occasion, but I don't have you. I don't represent you, so I could investigate.
Do you think it would have been a conflict if it hadn't have been commissioner versus commissioner? Or do you think if there hadn't have been commissioner, would you feel like you ethically could have done that?
I think I
you could have done that investigation.
Right, because I would not, but I couldn't say prefer Commissioner Justice over Commissioner Mullally or Hefner over Trevette, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My thought. But back to the firsthand knowledge, I think it should be easy to file an ethics complaint, at least get it investigated. And if people are doing it out of spite or revenge or anything like that, then hopefully the process.
Well, and that's why I think it
Way
goes
down.
back to that inquiry process that we don't have defined.
Mhm.
Advisory opinion.
Yeah, to where if somebody just files the complaint, that has to be firsthand knowledge, or you can go through the inquiry process and then maybe that firsthand knowledge thing is waived if they do this inquiry and determine there's something to it that it needs to be a complaint, versus just letting anybody file anything at any time.
Yeah, but this is the thing though, is that, and I see both points, okay? But as a commissioner, we got a very large city, but it's still a small city. It's still a small town. People talk, people know each other. And the thing is though, is that again, just like, the attorney stated, is that somebody comes to us, it is in our best interest to voice that concern.
Right.
Now, I understand, putting that to the, to filling out the first stage, right? But at the same time, it's also the fact that, if now obviously we've all gone through this, but 10 years from now or 5 years from now, we're all not here, right? Now all of a sudden, an attorney reads this and then goes back to not having that past knowledge and saying, well, firsthand, just kind of like what Marchetti stated. Now we lose that, ability to, again, make that investigation or make that review. So again, it's a very gray area, but I think, I see both parts, but I do understand when it comes to, again, getting the message out. We want to make sure that our citizens know that we're all being transparent here, and that I see both sides,
Well, it
honestly.
would have worked a lot better. And of course, I don't blame Gino at all for saying, hey, listen, I can't do this. This is commissioner versus commissioner. I'm
Sure.
not going to be choosing side. But this process would have been a lot smoother if he could have done a preliminary investigation, determine whether or not there may be some smoke, or was there any fire? And he could determine that. And then my next question is, let's just take this. Let's say that you did determine that not only there was smoke, there was fire. Then who determines to go forth to take it to that level?
Then it would go to the ethics.
Okay, well then who makes the case? This is where I get to. Who makes the case that there was enough to do a ethical violation?
The ethics commission.
See, that's where I get a tough time, because we're the trier of fact, we're the judge, we're the jury, we're the prosecutor, we're everything, as opposed to sitting and having somebody who says, yes, I believe that there has been an ethical violation. I'm going to make the case that there is an ethical violation, and then we could just decide whether or not, does it meet that level? Does it not meet
That's
that level?
what our disciplinary board, Board of Professional Responsibility,
But the only thing is,
investigated.
thank goodness I have never been there. But let me just say
Neither
this.
have I, but,
Thank goodness. But I'm just assuming that if, and most attorneys, I think that happens. What do? They hire an attorney, I guess, to defend them. But I guess there is. Well, no, hold on.
There's an investigation.
There is an investigator
Yeah.
who's an attorney who makes the argument that there was an ethical violation. The question here is, I think that's the missing
Who
factor
works for the BPO.
that works for that. So who would that person be? My point is, maybe it should be, it needs to be somebody. Somebody needs to come up here and be able to say, yes, we've determined in our investigation that there's been an ethical violation, and we're going to make the legal case that be done, and then we could just be the jury as opposed to having to be the other, telling you how to put on your case. And that was really unfortunate.
But are you not being the board of professional responsibility for this body?
Well, but that's the question is, but in that scenario that Gino said, there is a prosecutor, there is an investigator, there is an attorney
Who works for the board.
that is the investigator who makes the argument that this is why there is an ethical violation.
And he decides whether or not it needs to go up to the Board of Professional Responsibility and actually have a quote trial.
So my question would be to you guys as attorneys, is that been a successful process?
We don't know. I've never been there. I've never done it. Thank goodness.
But I'm sure you've
There's a whole
seen
lot
it,
of-
right?
There's a lot of lawyers that
We
don't
need
have
district
licenses
attorney.
anymore.
Yeah.
because of What's been done.
So if that's been, rather than reinvent the wheel, as far as that particular process goes, would that not be a similar process we could
I
kind of
mean-
model it after?
It
I would
is. But let me ask you this, could you be that investigator? Would the city attorney be able?
Attorney could be that investigator or prosecutor for investigator and then the prosecutor.
I think that makes probably the most sense. And then
And then if a commissioner is accused, then they go hire their attorney to come in. but they defend themselves
you have a
if they
defense.
want to.
The only thing is that if it's a situation where you're out, that's fine. But I think we do need
But
to,
then whoever comes in.
whoever comes in, like in this case, somebody needs to be defined as that role. I just want to make sure when we get done this, everybody knows their roles. And one role, I think that works okay. And I think that's a good analogy with, because we know that analogy is with the board and there. But somebody's got to be able to take the ball and put it across the end zone. Somebody's got to be able to carry the ball. And it shouldn't be left to the person who blew the whistle.
I'm gonna go back to firsthand. In the Hefner matter, under this definition, which is basically the same definition we currently have, firsthand, only persons who could have come forward and filed that complaint would have been the developers. Whoever Scott or allegedly went to and said, you vote for this or I'm out of here, or you buy my property, I'm out of here. So that means that would never have happened. As the mayor said, rarely do you actually see money being passed, type of thing, unless you got a hidden recording or something along those lines.
I think you ought to be able to say there's smoke. But ultimately, in order to have some direction on the ethics committee, it has to be based on
I mean, I think
non-hearsay.
that they maybe file the complaint, but you still got to have them come.
Correct. That's correct.
If it's reported to the mayor and the mayor makes the complaint, that person's still going to have to come to court or
Well,
come to the
absolutely,
commission, to the
but
meeting.
What this says here is the
They
mayor
can't
can't file
do
a
it.
complaint.
Right. I know that's what it
Until-
says,
That
but I'm
needs to
just
be
saying
changed.
that's a
Yeah.
revision that you could make that you could, if it
That's
gets
what I'm saying. If
filed.
we could lose the firsthand knowledge
Yeah.
for filing a complaint.
But
Shouldn't be a
you have to
barrier.
put the proof on, I think.
But
The-
ultimately,
For the inquiry process or for the prosecution process?
the
For
first,
complaint.
correct.
Okay, I'm and I remember this very vividly from back in 2002, 2003, where there were some allegations that were thrown around out here, and they were thrown around for no other reasons than to just beat somebody up politically and make somebody look really bad politically. There was no validity to what was being said, but they knew if they put it out there, then the media would pick it up and run with it.
Sure.
We call it fake news now, but Yeah, we didn't have that phrase back in those days. What's to prevent that from happening?
Defamation, slander, those sorts of.
We are held to that standard as public figures.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, you have to
Yeah.
show malice, and I've got 6 of those cases right now with quote, public figures, close quote, defamation claims.
Well, I mean,
And
Well, and there's a gatekeeper too. So I mean, if it's purely, has no merit, there's no, after he does his investigation, he can say, this doesn't rise to any level, to go forth.
Yeah, and that's actually worked really well in past years because the city attorney's always done that. If there was an ethics complaint, it went to the city attorney. If it was
Well, and I think it
yeah,
goes
I've
back
had
to
probably
us.
12, 13
Yeah,
ethics, and some against commissioners. And it was a statute of limitations on most of them. They got booted, or it had nothing to do with the basic premise of what this is with the personal benefit, et cetera, and so forth.
The system works okay unless you got commissioner versus commissioner. Then it's really not good. It's
Yeah.
not a good,
So-
it's not a good one. So.
So what if I had known the difference at the time between an inquiry and a complaint? What if I had said I want to file an inquiry
Yeah.
to have it looked into?
Mhm.
And then would it be
I still would
you?
have recused myself more than likely just because I wouldn't want to be representing you and Commissioner Hefner.
Okay, so
trying to
then
decide
who would be
who do
the
I
one
like
to
the
look
best.
into it?
That would be me asking the Ethics Commission, I'm gonna step out of this, would y'all appoint somebody else to serve?
And
So-
I think if we can define Gino's role on that, on how that process works, then if there is a
City
case,
attorney.
the city attorney, is, if we can define that, then if the ethics committee says, okay, he's out, we got to find somebody else to step in and do the role of the city attorney as far as this goes. At least we'll have some direction. And I think at that point, we're going to have to hire somebody, probably an attorney, to step in and do what Gino would have done if there was not a conflict.
But isn't that part of, okay, so now that we're talking about actually what happened, and listen, I'm not trying to rehash anything, but I want to kind of bring this out here. So, for Jennifer, James, myself, this was an inquiry. We went to the attorney. It was, maybe not on paper, but it was, hey, and listen, Gina, nothing against you. This is all learning for all of us. So I'm not pointing fingers, so don't take it that way. I'm saying, but as commissioners, especially me and Commissioner Mullally, excuse me, we're new to the board, so we're learning all these processes. Now, the other commissioners, they're more tenured, but for us, so when we see something, we smell something, we taste something, we think something, if we think it's an egg, right? So we take it to the attorney. We think we know something. Can you investigate? That's the inquiry. And then from there, it's, it seems like you got something. That's not on paper though, but I do understand it. And I think moving forward, this process that needs to be on paper. So this way a commissioner or even, deputy chief or whoever, can be able to go in, read the inquiry and say, hey, these are the steps that you need to evaluate, kind of like an evaluation sheet, a check and balance. And that's what needs to be done. So that way there is no gray area here. It's a black and white situation. And then we can move on, because then we don't get into the other side of it. And nothing against Commissioner Justice here, but I go back, because I went back and I reread mine. Okay. I had a question because I wanted the board to evaluate. That's what I seen it as your job. Now, then I go back and I reread mine, which was I am pressuring and all this other stuff. So to me, that's a retaliation back on, well, if I'm going to get an ethics complaint, I'm going to fire one on you. Well, the way I look at it as in, if I was harassing this individual, then you should have put it in months ago, back when it was, to me, that's the part that I didn't like, was the fact that, wait a minute here. Okay. If there was a statement in there that there was harassment for 6 months, then there should never have been any type of retaliation there, because you missed it. You missed the 30-day window, because you knew it was happening and you missed the window. So why did it even make it to the ethics commission?
But part
for the retaliation. And that's what I'm asking you guys. So,
Well,
so
and I
is it
think-
cleared up in here
I feel like that
for the
whole-
next commissioner, by the way, not,
whole inquiry
now.
process to me is not clear in the current code. It says you can ask for an ethics opinion, but I really feel like it needs to be where you can ask for this to be investigated. And I don't think that that's clear in the current code we have. And I think that the firsthand knowledge is important for the complaint, but maybe there's an exception where if whoever this investigator is, that investigator could file a complaint without firsthand knowledge if they've completed their investigation and feel like maybe that's the exception to people can get it investigated before it rises to the level of a complaint.
A police officer could do an investigation and it would be based on, it doesn't have to be based on firsthand. He makes the
Right.
complaint.
That's
and
what
then
I'm-
it goes to court, but then
Yeah.
in court,
I see that.
The attorney's
Right.
gotta bring.
The
It's gotta be
actual-
all the
evidence.
all the
person
data,
in
all the
there.
evidence.
And so here's what I think, and I think this is important, is that we need to have a lane for what we're talking about, inquiries, advisory opinions. Hey, I think there's smoke. That ought to be a lane. There also may be a lane. Hey, I heard firsthand knowledge. I'm ready to make a complaint.
Right.
That ought to be a lane. And I think what happened here, which was really bad, is that I think every one of you guys filed complaints. There was no advisory opinion.
Right.
I mean, so when you're not taking that route, you have to treat it like a different route. So I think, but I agree. I mean, you shouldn't be barred from, if you go out and investigate and you feel some smoke, I think you shouldn't be barred just because you didn't hear it.
Okay, well, you just brought up a good point.
Yeah.
There are actually 3 elements that a police officer uses. The first one, for instance, a traffic stop.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't have to have probable cause to make a traffic
Yeah.
stop, but you do have to have reasonable suspicion. So if I've got reasonable suspicion that there's something going on there, just reasonable suspicion, then I could make that traffic stop. Once I make the traffic stop, before I can make an arrest, I've got to have probable cause at that point. If I don't have probable cause, I can't get a warrant, correct?
Right.
And I have to observe that as a police officer personally.
And you have to testify.
I have to testify to
because
it, and
you
that is
didn't
part of the
testify.
evidence. You know, and I have the access to all of that evidence. And that's where the evidence comes in. Once you get to that point, then you got a prosecution based on the evidence, whether it's going to be criminal court, general sessions court, chancery court, wherever it may be, you still have evidence, and it has to be a prosecution based on the evidence.
Well, you should-
Evidences cannot be hearsay.
That's right. And you shouldn't be barred from making a complaint just because you don't have firsthand knowledge. Now, ultimately, we have to determine whether or not that is, it has risen to the level. And you have to do that through evidence that would be admissible in court.
Well, and that's why I think that if you have an investigator to do the inquiry part, if you don't have firsthand knowledge, but you think there's something that needs to be reported, have that investigator
Yeah.
be allowed to file a complaint if they go out and investigate
then
it.
the-
And even though they don't have, they talk to whoever, and that would be allowed.
And then the investigator / whatever,
Would-
prosecutor
would-
could
could come in-
subpoena. Yes.
Yeah, could come to court or come to the meeting and state what they were told, and then you subpoena that witness in here to see if they say yes.
But who does the subpoena?
Well, I mean, that's
Is that
up
the
to,
investigator
I mean,
or is that us? That's
well, I
the-
mean, I think the Franklin
Ethics
Board has
Commission.
subpoena
The Ethics
power.
Commission would
Yeah.
have to do it,
Vote
And
to
that's,
do it,
yeah,
and then chair could.
which under our existing code, we as the Board of Commissioners can, give that authority to any committee.
And I could say this, if the investigator comes to the ethics committee and says, okay, to make this case, we need this, and this person to testify. It didn't really matter, I guess, who issues the subpoena. It just matters, we got to get them there.
Could you use the same process that's used for the investigation of a domestic assault? For instance, I go to a home, I get to that home and I've got a man and woman, he hit me, she hit him, we'd have to determine whoever the primary aggressor is at that point. Somebody in the law says you shall make an arrest. Well, you didn't see it happen.
No, but
So
in
you
order-
have to get a preponderance of that evidence for that probable cause at that point to be able to put handcuffs on the person, take them to jail. But you still didn't see it happen.
But to convict that person, you're probably you're gonna have to have somebody's gonna have to testify. And that's a real problem in domestic assault because a lot of
Constantly,
times people don't go through it. But at some point, somebody's got to stand up and say, yeah, this person hit me or whatever. And I think that's fine. The only thing is right now is that you don't even get to that point unless you have firsthand knowledge. And that is
that's why I think that inquiry
Probably
process
doesn't need
needs
to
to
happen.
be,
That would be the reasonable
Yeah.
suspicion would be the
Right.
that's a
inquiry.
smoke.
Correct. That's
and
your
let
smoke.
Somebody, yeah, and let that be investigated. and
Probable
complain.
cause would be what you would have to have at that point to be able to
I
prosecute
mean, it doesn't
beyond
have to
the
be
smoke.
At that point, firsthand knowledge, if the investigator writes a statement
I'm
that
looking
he's
at my
talked to these people and this is
Police
what he's
officer
been told.
partner here.
Yeah, that's right. Then they go to court, or go to court. Then you go to the ethics committee, and then they have to then
Subpoena the people,
subpoena or
right.
whatever, and they can say, based on my investigation, this, and this happened, and then we could, as the ethics committee, can say, okay, well, we need this person here, we need this person here. Then you got your firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, I agree, because all I ever wanted, and I didn't know what else to do but file a
Right.
complaint, because, I've never done one before. But really what I wanted was it looked into. Is there something here? Is it worth investigating? I wanted it looked into. So, yeah, I agree. There needs to be that step or that lane prior to it being a actual complaint.
And the prior one didn't really clarify that. And I think that's why everybody was,
Right.
Whether or not, Bill, you, the same thing. You just really wanted to see if there was anything to it.
That's all we're asking
And,
for.
and I don't think you really was clear that you could
It's not.
do an advisory, but that's what we're going
Well,
to clear.
even an advisory opinion to me doesn't sound like it's investigated. Is that?
Well,
it
then
seems
call
like
it
it-
something else.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that's why I feel like the way it's
Advisory
written now-
investigation?
Yeah, because the way it's written right now, it's like an opinion, and are they going to even look? No, based on what you're telling me, my opinion is this is not, that this to me seems that they're going to investigate it. So I feel like that process needs to be clearer.
Yeah, and I would like to make sure that we go back to the second part, which is making sure the retaliation is not there. Because again, for any other next, commissioner, just because, one person files a complaint on one, or even if it's another department head, let's go back outside of, just this situation up here. Let's go out there. Let's just say you've got a deputy chief and a chief, one puts one out on the other. One's filing a complaint, the other one's like, well, shoot, I could lose my job. So I'm going to put one out on him because I knew two, because of whatever reason. Okay. These are things that I think that need to be cleared up, because retaliation doesn't fix the problem. It's just, it is a simple ask. Hey, does it pass the smell test? Yes, it does. Is there, or smoke, fire? Yes. Is there a situation there? That's where it goes back to the ethics commission to evaluate. At no time should the employee or the commissioner or whoever else make that determination. We're not the judge and jury. We're the ones asking, hey, we were told, we were informed, this is what we see, this is what we heard. Can you evaluate? That's
You can't
it.
bar somebody from you. I know it may be retaliatory, and it may be absolutely tit for tat, and I'm going to go after you because you went after me, but I don't think you can bar it. I think it has to be in both of them has to be investigated. If there is nothing to it, then you know what, so be it. But I don't think you can just, there is, it seems like we have, doesn't the district attorney have a rule in Wilson County where somebody that files a criminal warrant, they won't do a
You can't. They
retaliatory,
will not do it. It's
they
a-
won't do, but that's based on that's a judicial commissioner that has that kind of rule. My point is.
No, that's the DA actually
or
went to
whoever
the
is the DA, the
uh,
judicial commissioner.
JC,
Somebody's
yeah.
got a rule that we don't do retaliatory warrants.
I'm trying to
But
think what
in
that
this,
word is.
what
There's a
is there a
word.
better word than that?
It's
But-
domestics normally where that comes out, where
Yeah.
you've got the male goes in and he gets charged. Well, I want to charge her now. She hit me. No, it doesn't work. that
It
way.
doesn't work that way, but it is unfair because sometimes it's whoever
Who
gets
gets
to
there
who
first.
gets there first.
Correct.
That
Well,
happens.
I've heard that, but I've never.
It happens sometimes. But that's why it leads to the police officer figuring out who's the primary aggressor. But that can be debated too. But either way, so but I don't think you can bar it. But I think your point's well taken in the fact that if it's clearly retaliatory, there's nothing there. It ought to not go continue to the next part of that.
Well, actually, our current says a good faith,
Yeah,
that it has to be found in good faith.
that's true.
And the complaint, which is Chattanooga's sworn complaint, it says in bold letters, I understand that submitting a complaint containing false information will subject me to the penalty for perjury,
Yeah, that's good.
which
Yeah.
is serious. So
Oh, absolutely.
those-
Well, who's going to prosecute that?
Yeah, that's what I was
The The
like.
DA.
Or the district attorney. I mean,
The
committing
DA
perjury
is
might-
not going to prosecute.
Yes,
Hey.
if it's a perjury,
If it's a criminal, that's a criminal.
Okay,
act.
good luck with that.
no.
This
it's
is
a
Wilson
criminal
County.
act. Yeah, I mean,
You don't think Jason Lawson?
went after Trump.
Jason
Oh.
Lawson is not going to prosecute.
I don't know. I think he will. I think he'll back it up
But anyway,
if it's justified.
If it was somebody who was just clearly knew it was a lie and went forth, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I've known Jason since the minute he got out of law school, and even before that, I think he did.
and I don't think there'll be that many
You don't-
unjust ethics.
I've been seeing it. I know it.
complaints Or
I think,
ethics
yeah.
complaints without a basis. I just don't think that's why I
It's
don't
a-
like.
Well, there's
the
an
first
investigation. There's actually two
hand.
investigations that it's going to go through for the most part. The first one is an inquiry, determine whether it has merit or no merit. Once it gets beyond, if it has merit, then it's going to another investigation. So, if it didn't have any merit at all, it's going to stop. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, a question if you're doing it for, impure reasons. I mean, it's risk versus reward. I mean,
Well, good
What are
luck.
you
Good luck prosecuting something like that, though. I mean,
that's what I mean.
yeah.
I mean, like, you're going to get, if you get I mean, what are you going to do in an ethics complaint that's going to be worth the possibility of perjury?
I mean, you'd be better off just taking it to Channel 2 News and just say, hey, let you guys
And
do
I
it.
will
Going
say
on
this.
online,
And that's what's gonna happen
you're
anyway.
garbage.
Ray is right. Historically, Wilson County, we have not had a lot of that. And there's also crimes. I do a lot of estate work, and crimes against estates have been not going. I mean, people, they don't go forth much on that either.
Well,
It's
you
very,
brought up
very odd.
a case earlier that was in Wilson County where the person was A, not even eligible to run for office, and B, trying to run for an office that was not that he didn't even live in the district. And that was taken to the DA. And at that point, the DA is like, well, I'll send it. I'm going to send it to
He would
TBI.
Let me get that
file
10-foot
a
pole.
sworn statement that I am qualified, I do live, blah, 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 blah. So that's basically a perjury.
And guess what happened to him? He was told, stop it. Shame on you. Don't ever do that again. We're not going to prosecute you this time.
Mhm. I mean, that's their prerogative. And
Now, that person since went back and has gotten his record expunged and, is in good standing is what I understand, but that's the process
You
it
got
went
enough
through.
to fix
I know that. I know
your
that.
good work thus far.
Yeah, I know we're coming up. I mean, I think we're 40 minutes over, at least 38 minutes over than what we had set aside for tonight, correct? It was an hour or a half hour meeting?
No, I think it was an hour.
It was an hour?
We're 8 minutes. We're doing pretty good.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's great. So coming out of this, so obviously we're still redlining this, right? Going back and forth. So coming back out of this, the inquiry needs to be a clear statement, so that way we've got a baseline to work off of, the inquiry. And then also, I'd also like to be able to see what these other cities are doing for the investigators, because I think that's kind of important, Again, if we're going to mirror what other cities are doing, let's figure out what some of the challenges are that they're going through. Because, obviously they would probably want to go back and make some changes, but I don't know if they want to really open up the can of worms that we're going through with back and forth and redlining and all these other meetings, but you just don't know if the city actually has to go back through all that
You know what
challenges.
they do in Davidson County, Gino, on that?
Whatever it is, we wanted the opposite.
Do the
It's close to the MTS. I'm looking, I think this is Franklin's. The maintenance of high standards of honesty, integrity, impartiality, conduct by employees, agents, blah, 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 is essential to proper performance. The avoidance of misconduct, conflicts of interest is indispensable to the maintenance. Therefore, this chapter shall be construed at all times in accordance with these goals. So that is why I say in order to file a complaint, that firsthand knowledge thing, I think, needs to disappear.
Yeah, I agree.
That doesn't lessen the burden of proof for quote conviction, but again, if they want to do the inquiry and somebody may say, hey, this guy came up to me and said he was sitting there and he saw this, that, and that, and this happened, yeah, I want to file a complaint. I don't want an inquiry. I'm convinced. I've done my investigation. I think there's enough there to file a complaint, and I'm filing one under penalty of perjury, blah, 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 blah.
It's still, we didn't make any changes where there's no possible way people can file anonymous complaints under this. It's still signed and everything else. Okay.
Well, and I'll say this about all 5 people, all 5 of you guys who made those complaints. I don't fault you for making the complaints. I mean, I don't. I mean, you guys thought there was some smoke out there and you wanted to investigate it. You wanted to make sure. I think you all did it because you really like Mount Juliet. You want to make sure we're doing things ethically and we're doing things correctly. And I don't have a problem with
I
that.
second that emotion.
Yeah, and so, and I think you should be able to. Somebody shouldn't be able to say, well, we can't look into that because it doesn't fit this narrow definition. Let's make it a broad definition. Then let's see if there is stuff there, and then if there is there, then it goes to the ethics committee, and we can sort of flush it out. My only thing is, and this is, and like I said, just not to beat a dead horse, but we need to figure out just the process. Once that happens, and then we find that out, and like I said, there is a process that's in place, I think, with the city attorney. Where this thing kind of got crazy is because we were without a city attorney, and when we hired Bill Farmer, who is just an excellent attorney, a wonderful attorney, I don't think he was clear on what his direction was, and was he just giving us advice on the ethics committee?
He was not, quote, the prosecutor.
Does he basically inherit the role of the city attorney? I would argue that if we have to hire somebody else, that person is going to inherit whatever Gino's responsibility.
He inherited my role.
Yes, and I think that needs to be clear that he
But
inherits.
trying
it.
to work through the current ethics code was problematic for several reasons.
Well, one of the reasons that I especially wanted this looked at was because I don't think there was a lot of clear direction from any direction. It was like a lightning bolt. I mean, it was just like everybody was kind of looking around trying to figure out what we're going to do next. And I understand where Gina was at.
100% true.
Yeah,
Because
and
there's contradictory comments in this. For example, I kept being told you should dismiss this. It wasn't firsthand information, statute of limitations, et cetera, and so forth. But I think it's highlighted in here. It says if it's against an official, the city attorney shall refer it to the ethics commission. And that was the October 31st meeting where I said, here it is, guys. This says it has to go to you guys. I got to recuse myself. So you don't need to pick another one. It wasn't an option for me as a city.
And I'll say,
And I understand
our
my
due diligence too. We didn't want you to think that we just looked at it and discounted it and nobody cared and then just said, try again. That's a bad look too.
Of course it is. But that was my reason for going through this process. It's also the reason that I said delay this thing. We're going to put it off for 45 days so that we can kind of put something together and come back to the commission, something that we're comfortable with that we can vote on. Now, I'm really more comfortable now with you guys doing this work because you're the ones that winds up having to utilize whatever we put into policy. I don't think we're there yet. Nowhere near it, actually. And what I would like to do is give y'all the opportunity. I think you've got kind of the core of what we're looking for. You know what you need to have. So, another 30 days, would that work for you guys to get together and come up with something to present that we could actually vote on?
Could we have let me ask you this, how does that work for the public hearing? It'd be nice if we could meet with the ethics committee maybe and get some of the.
I think you can, can't you,
I
Gino?
don't know how that works. I don't want.
You can, only, but y'all are commission, you're subject to the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, and y'all can have a work session. And
Similar
say,
to this.
Yeah, here's what it is. And
But is the work session open to the public?
that's what this is.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they would get and schedule and have a work session here, and then that way you guys can work together.
I went to that meeting, yes. It's
Oh, she's
I was there.
showing your certificate.
I learned all about it.
Oh, Lord.
She only did it because it says UT.
That's right, that's
She
why I
says
did
UT,
Of course,
uh,
one of the
Hey, there's
exceptions
no better
to
reason.
means is disciplinary hearings. And Ab
Mhm.
says, oh, that only applies to employees. And I said, where does it say that, Ab? Well, that's the understanding. I said, okay, so ethics commission really was a disciplinary. It wasn't, to decide whether or not sewer should be put in someplace. So,
Well, having said that, I think
well,
what
that's
we-
a good point. So, so anyway.
I agree with Mr. Justice. Why don't we do it 30 more days? Let's take another hour and a half stab at it. Georgina did a fabulous job kind of putting all this
You did.
together.
I felt guilty for her doing what she did, and that's not paying her, actually. I mean, she did that much work on it. I was impressed.
Well, I'm gonna do a mediation and use her. So, and for all her hard work, she's good. She's a mediator. And so I told her I'm gonna do a mediation.
I got one you don't want. I like you enough that I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
gonna
well,
get
good.
you.
Don't call me for that.
Yeah, don't do that. I got some mediators. I'll let you.
Everybody's gonna get sued in this.
And then I think it's a great idea. 30 days from now, let's take another stab.
I mean, is 30 days enough? I mean, we could do another 45.
30, 45, whatever.
Just
I
don't
said-
anybody do anything unethical in that 45.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got enough experience that we've gone through the last Mongolian cluster.
So is this going to be an ethics commission workshop,
No, no,
a
I-
BOC
you guys are
with,
always- no, let's let everybody. I mean,
okay,
I think all your thoughts and opinions are great. If you come, great. If you can't come, it doesn't have to just be us. Gosh, we're all trying to do it for the good of the city of Mount Juliet. So let's do it just like this again.
we've still got four other ones too. So if we could I mean, not in this one, we're out of time, finish
For other,
proposals.
On the agenda.
So, if
I mean, does anybody
individually,
have an
And I
issue with
recommend-
with
You may be
Ordinance?
saying the same thing. Looks like we got one that works. That unless somebody's got some horrible complaint, rather than saying, hey, what about this, what about that? If you've got Commissioner Mullally things that you think should go into Georgiana's, then send that to everybody and say, hey, I need to stick this in there.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to be doing is holding 5 different pieces of paper and saying, well, go take this, take that, take that. Anyway, I think we'd be here for forever.
I agree.
doing that.
And a day.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's one of the reasons I'm tickled to death to have the commission here that's going to be using this. You know, y'all will wind up making it user friendly,
Yeah.
just to benefit yourself, and you'd be crazy not to, obviously. Yeah, I don't want to get involved in trying to be a lawyer when I've got 3 of y'all sitting here.
Well, like I say, anything that Georgina, I think's got a lot of different things in there, but if there's anything that Georgina doesn't have in there, let's.
Well, that she's got something in there you don't think should be in there.
Well,
like
we-
firsthand knowledge.
Well, we're talking about administrative inquiry as opposed to an investigation or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think one thing that maybe we've agreed on today is that the firsthand knowledge needs to either go away or be rewritten to make sure that it allows for investigations. I think that's pretty unanimous.
I agree. So we'll reconvene
What
in
date?
30 days?
Yeah, what date can we can go?
Sheila?
Mm,
Well, 30 days is pretty much, let's see,
It's around,
24, 25.
I really like April 23rd.
That's a Tuesday.
Yes, I'll be out of town.
What day will you be back?
I'm actually not sure whether I'm
Not
going to be out
coming
the
back,
next,
or-
well, on paper, I have a conference that week and then I have a conference the next week. I just don't know if I'm attending the second one just yet.
is that April 30th?
I'm looking for the exact dates,
'Cause April
but I'm looking at
30th
the wrong calendar and that's not helping.
Another thing
April
good.
22nd and the 29th of the Mondays, those 2 months.
For the commission meeting?
Oh, we want to do Wednesday.
No.
Actually, I'm being unethical. It's the week after.
What about May 1st?
May 1st, I'll be right in the middle of Vegas. So y'all carry on.
Panama City, so.
April 20th.
Right now, I'll be on a conference that week starting with the Sunday, the 28th and May 5th.
What about May 15th?
23rd to the 24th.
Hang on a minute, let me look at something here.
May 13th is a BOC meeting.
Mhm.
I mean,
Nancy
could
had
we,
said on a Wednesday, and May 15th is a Wednesday.
No, I'm sorry. I'll be out of town May 13th through the 19th.
What about May 8th?
We're Oh,
May 8th, I'm here.
I'm potentially in Vegas.
Oh,
May 22nd?
I'm gonna be in London or Paris.
You win the distance
There's so
challenge.
much alike. I mean, you know.
Vegas. No, it's my son. He's graduating, so we're gonna do it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we're going to Turks and Caicos. We're
Congratulations.
taking them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're doing
May
30. I'm taking
29th?
the London to Paris.
That's awesome.
And
We'll trade you.
yeah.
Both of them are pretty good though. I ain't gonna lie.
That's Memorial Day weekend.
The 29th. Yeah, I'll be back. 29th.
Yeah, it's the only thing that doesn't look like it's got a day on it. So
May 29th.
I'm good with that.
Looks like I'm good with that.
everybody else
6
good?
p.m.?
Would 5 PM be a problem?
Nope. It's better for me because
Yeah, better.
like today, I went home and then I
Yeah,
came
that's
back.
Yeah.
It wouldn't.
We love 5 p.m.
Normally
Oh,
5 p.m. would be, but it will not be on the 29th. I will be working from home that day, it looks like. So
We do 5:30?
Well, Gino,
You won't be working?
5:15, it would be perfect. I can quit working at 5 and that will give me 15 minutes to get here.
Thank y'all.
For anyone watching online, all the commissioners are part-time. So we work other jobs.
Andy and Mike Shoemaker.
what time did we say, 5 or 5:15?
5:15.
I thought Mike's guy. Is that your guy, Bill?
Yeah, Mike, and I mean, the interesting part with Mike is he travels during the week, so
Oh,
he's-
okay.
Monday through Friday is when he's home, so, or Monday and Friday, so that's the problem. So we
We
would
was
book
home
these
Monday and Friday.
Monday or Friday, not and, one of the two.
Oh, wow.
So I need to really start thinking about this, so I'm gonna kind of talk to him and see what our options are. It's just, he's a local, he's from Mount Juliet, he knows a lot of
Yeah,
stuff
really
about it,
knows.
and he'd be a good resource for history. That's what I looked at this individual, so. But yeah, we're gonna have to rethink this, but we'll see.
So if everybody's sending their stuff to Gino, I've got the Word doc, so if you want me to,
Just soon,
send it.
Send it to Georgiana and copy me.
Is he on your email chain
Well,
also,
yes.
Mike? Okay, so he's getting these emails?
He's,
Mike?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I copy him on everything.
Thank you.
I've also been, just to throw it out there, I've been asked by a former member of the Ethics Commission who was a member of the body the first round about possibly participating in the creation or work on this document. So I don't know if that's appropriate, inappropriate. I don't see there's any harm if there's,
If he wants, I mean, it's public comments.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to send anything, let him send it. It's my fault.
Is this your former person?
Is that Uncle Sam?
I have known him since I was 4 years old.
Really?
But, he's
Talking about
always-
Sam?
Yeah, so he's fun. I mean,
He was on the board of HOAs with me, so yeah.
He's good. He was the
He means well.
he was in the bar. I went to St. Paul's United Methodist growing up, and he was in the quartet.
Yeah.
They sang.
He still is.
Yeah, he does like barbershop quartet stuff. It's really good. Actually, he sang at Gladeville United Methodist maybe a month ago. Or 2
For all the
months.
people,
they're really good.
Yeah, very, very good. David Wright. You know David Wright.
Mhm.
Great engineer.
I was about to say.
Oh, yeah.
that's
Great
real big.
engineer, owned
Used to
the,
work really at the-
Yeah, and he
Lovely.
actually owned that. What's that? It was like a structural engineer, huge
Yeah.
engineer. Big buddies with Rob Porter on the civil side too.
That's all.
But he was in. Wright was also in the quartet at St. Paul's. So.
yeah, they sing for all the kids that are sick and they go around and
Oh yeah.
yeah, they do that in hospitals. It's amazing. I mean, what a big heart that is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
If
Go
Mayor
around.
Sam wants to send something, tell him to send it, and if he wants to come on the 29th,
Yeah.
No.
I was kind of surprised he wasn't here tonight. I mean, he's very engaged in the process. And I mean,
Yeah.
he's got a lot of questions and still does. So
Well, more the merrier. Gosh, that's fine with me.
Yeah, he's really good at reading documents.
Hey, Yancy, I sort of feel like Sam up here a little bit. I got to watch you grow up.
Oh, that's very true. That's
Yeah.
very true.
That's what's
I
He's
love it.
still
Proud of
trying to
you.
grow up.
Yeah.
He's
still trying to grow up. That's-
if there's no objection, we will adjourn.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
Yeah,
Fair
cut the
enough.
video. This gets worse.